Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Tonight we're going to look at Apache Beam, data flow with Google, and the pipeline itself. The last time I actually showed you how we could set it all up with how we compiled a template file and how we actually got it all set up, also with Terraform. Today I'm going to show you how the pipeline code actually looks like. What it looks like. First of all, if you're in any doubt, you probably at some point will need to read the documentation regarding Apache Beam, and it's not easy. It's very complex and difficult, and that is also why I make these videos right here, so you can kind of jump into the middle and into the interesting part, into the parts that are the most common actually. So let us look at it. So first of all, this is a transform. This is a transform chapter, and this is one of the most important chapters in the documentation, because here we can actually see that we have we have a pipeline, and then we apply some transformations. So, and this is actually all what it's all about. We apply a lot of stuff all the time. That means first of all we tell the pipeline that we want some input data. That could be from a topic like you saw last time, from a Google Pubsub topic. And then we can then take that data, then transform it into a Firestore. Now, first of all, we want to transform it from JSON into a Java object. That was the first step. The second step was to then transform it into a Firestore write object. And then the third thing was actually to write it to Firestore. So we had all of those steps that you saw last time, and that is actually the most common. Most common use case is actually that you have a one-to-one. So you have some input, and you need to map that into something else. There are also situations where you want to use parallel flows, where you want to do one thing and you also want to do another thing with it, with the input data. I'll show that in another video. This is just to show the basic and most common use case, from one input to one output and one destination. And here you can see this is the graphic representation of what I just said right here. We read, we transform, and then we write. So, and that is exactly also what this example that I have right here does. So I've already started the direct runner, just like last time. It is now listening for all of the messages in the Pubsub, but we are not that interested in the runner today. We are more interested in the pipeline. So let us look at the code once again. So these are the custom options. So if you have some options that are for your pipeline, and you most in 99% of the cases, of course, you will have some options. Then you have to create this interface that I also showed you last time, where you have to create getters and setters for it, and that's it. Watch the other video if you have questions to the options. Then we have the configuration. This is because I'm running locally with the direct runner right here. Then I'm actually hard coding and setting these properties right here. So that's why we have that right there. And then the next step right here, that is the pipeline itself. And the reason why I'm creating the pipeline in a separate class, this is the class that I've created, where I've named this pipeline factory, is because then I can both use it in the direct runner, and I can also use it in my cloud runner. So then I have the exact same pipeline. I can just run it a little bit differently when I run it as a direct runner. Let us go to the pipeline factory. And it has a build method, and it takes all of these options right here to set up the pipeline. And here we have the class. It creates a pipeline. So this is line 1. We have to create a pipeline. So that's the first step, and we always create a pipeline from the options. And this options right here, it extends the data flow options, because I know I'm going to use it with the Google data flow runner. I know I'm going to use it with the Google's the Google resources, so that is why I'm using the data flow options. So if you use one of the other clouds, then of course I would recommend that you actually extend, instead of extending data flow pipeline options right here, then you would then extend one of the other runners pipeline options instead. Yeah, so we have the pipeline now. So then our pipeline has been created. It has just been named P right here. And then the first step is to pick up the messages. And I've created a method for doing that. I could just have some developers, they actually like just to have one long method with apply. I feel that it's a bit difficult to read. I actually like some methods like this: pick up incoming messages from topic and convert to hash map. Then I can actually read what's going on, and I know exactly what this does. It picks up the messages from Pubsub, and then it converts it to a Java hash map. And let us look at what it actually does. First of all, it takes the pipeline as a parameter right here, and that is because that we need to apply it. We need something to apply all of our transformations to. So this is the first transformation, or it's actually a read. It's actually a read. So that means that now we get something called a P collection. The P collections is the collection that will then be used for the next steps. A P is just stands for potential, so it's the potential collection, and all of the transforms, those are named P transform if you're looking for the class. And first of all, this is a plugin or an adapter, if you will. So there's a lot of adapters out there. That's one of the cool things about Apache Beam, that you can actually just take these adapters from the shelf, and then you can use them without writing much code. So you can see right here we have the Pubsub IO adapter. And then we read messages with message ID like this from subscription. And look, the only parameter, the only argument I'm actually giving you right here is actually the subscription. Inside the subscription, there will be a project name. There will be the specific location to the subscription where we want to listen for messages. So that is the only thing, just to read messages. I think this is awesome, right? So now we actually have the whole P collection. Now we have the messages that are being placed in this topic. Those will just be streamed through, and then we have those on this on this step right here. This means that we have a P collection right here. This P collection, again, we can apply something on this, and here I want to enrich this to a Java object. And if you read the documentation, then you will see there are a lot of weird ways to make transformations. You can make group by transformations. If you just want to make a one-to-one transformation, use the Pardot of, and then you actually create your own class right here. That is what I like to do. You can also use lambdas and stuff like that. I just think it gets very messy very fast. So I'm always creating my own classes. This is payload to request object. This actually means that this is a payload that will be converted from. You can see here I have a class. It extends the do-fn, the do function. So the Pardot needs a do-fn, something that extends the do-fn function class, and then it needs to have an input. So the input is Pubsub message. That is because we used that in the step before. So if I place this in another step, another place in my pipeline, then maybe I would not be able to use the Pubsub message. It depends on the step before always, what you get in as input, and you need to, of course, create a and you need to use the generic that has the same type there, and the output. What I want to output from this step right here is the hash map. So that means that I want to take the Pubsub input message, and I want to convert that into a hash map. The method name right here, you can actually name your method whatever you want to. What is important is that you are annotating it with process element. So you need to have exactly one method with process element. And here we have the process context. The process context is very important because that is where you can place your output element, and you can actually place more than one output element per input. So it's just so you know. And you can also place. You can actually branch out also if you want to. I'll show you that in another video, not this video right here. So then you also have to annotate this element right here. So this actually shows that this is the input element, and you just annotate that with elements. We have it right here. Then I'm checking for if it's null, then I stop. If the length of the payload is 0. Then I also stop. Then I don't do anything about it. If it is JSON, I'm trying to. Actually, here I'm trying to convert it into a hash map, JSON hash map. Right here, I expect JSON, and then if I get an exception, then I just throw runtime exception, and then I can pick that up in the Google logs, and actually I can pick it up in the job log also. Here I'm converting it. I'm using the JSON object mapper. As soon as you have something with JSON or XML also, then you could use the JSON object mapper. There's also one for XML. You can also, of course, use, at least when it's JSON, then you need to use the JSON mapper. That's kind of de facto standard. Of course, you don't need to, but it's a good solution to the problem at hand. Then we have process context right here, outputs, and then you give it the new. This is the hash map that we have created. So this means we are creating one hash map right here, and then we say that this is output, and this means that now we actually have converted one Pubsub message to one hash map that then will move on to the next step. So this is one step right here. And if you don't have any good reasons for not doing this, then I would definitely recommend you to create a new class every time, extend the do function, and then you can actually see it's very readable for your code developers. You have an input message, and you have the input type, and you have an output type right here. Let us go back to our pipeline. I have it in my pipeline factory right here. So this was this method right here: pick up messages and convert to hash map. So now it's a hash map, and again, I'm up here when I'm calling all of these things. This means that I have a P collection with the generic type hash map. That means that the input for the next step will be a hash map. And again, I've used a method. So let us just jump to the method. Here again, we have the pipeline. I take the pipeline as a parameter, and here I apply. Again, every time you apply something, you can choose to add a step name, and I'll definitely recommend you to do that. And make it a good one, because you can use these step names. Will be shown in the Google Cloud in the data flow. Where when you go and look at the job, then you can see this name right here. So always add a name and try to. It should actually be a bit shorter than I have right here, because it's not that many characters per default that you can see when you just look at your geographical view of your pipeline. So it should be a bit shorter than this, I think, but it's okay. So again, here now we want to create a Firestore write document object, and the reason why we want to do that is because that we have an adapter that can actually write the Firestore document without any problem. We just need to prepare it as a write. The class is named write. It needs to be a write object. So let us again. I've created I've created a class. So do of, and then we have the class right here. The class again is a do function like this. Input is hash map. Output is write, and this write is a Firestore specific class. So that is the one that we need to give to the adapter. So the downside is, of course, with all these adapters, you have to read the documentation. Every time you have something new, or a new destination or a new source, then you have to read the documentation. How is this adapter meant to be used? And I of course, I had to do that also before I wrote this code right here. Okay, so the Firestore code actually says that you can actually generate a name for if you want to create a new Firestore document, then you can create a name like this with the projects. This is my project name. Databases, and then the Firestore database name. This is the default, where I'm just using the default Firestore database. If you are just have enabled your Firestore service in the Google Cloud, then you will get one database, which is the default. It is in brown brackets, default, that is the name of it. And feel free to take down my project so you can see how it's wired up. And then we have the documents right here. It is on GitHub. And here we have Firestore collection. Again, these are just value providers. This means these are options. These are options that I provide with my when I create a new instance of this, then you can see I have required Axe constructor right here. This means that Lombok will create a constructor with these three value providers. Value providers are just options that will be provided at runtime for this step. Yeah. And you can set this either you can hardcode it if you are running locally, and when you are running in the cloud, then you have some parameters and some settings that you can give along with your job definition when you set it up with Terraform, for instance. It is that there's a lot with this. It's not simple. There's a lot of technologies combined before you can actually get a good result. And that is also why it's a bit difficult for some people actually to start with Apache Data Beam, and then they end up with just creating a plain old Java code, which also works. But the benefit of using this is that you don't have to think about scaling. You can run it on different engines, and that is actually the benefit. The downside is that you have to learn a lot before you can actually. You have to learn all this. There's a steep learning curve, I think. Yeah, or there's a learning. Is it steep? If it's easy when it's steep, or is it difficult when? That's okay. So here we have so here I'm actually building the Firestore document. So here I take this builder right here, and then I take each element. I take each key. I take each key inside the hash map. And then I put the fields, so I have the key right here, and then I have the value right here. And again, the value, they have to be wrapped in a special Firestore value wrapper. So I have to create a value with a builder, and then even though it's just a string, I have to set string value, and then I have to get the hash map value right there, and then I have to build it. So that's just how it is. And then I get a document out in the end right here, and then that's actually it. What is this one right here? Document builder built. And then we have write. Yes. So first we have the document, and then we create a new write object, which is right here. And then we say that the context should add this as output. We have the process context right here. The process context, it can actually also be quoted for the options. I just had some problems converting the default options and casting that to my own custom options. So that is why I'm actually giving these value providers here as constructor variables. Actually, I prefer this approach. Actually, it's also more testable when you actually provide when you put in the code like this. So that is the create document. Let us go back to the pipeline right here, and then the last step was then the adapter. So that's actually it. That's actually the code. You can see we have these two methods right here: pick up messages and write them to the Firestore. That's actually it. And then we return this pipeline right here. I've already the direct runner running. So let me just see if we can. Go to the Firestore projects. So here I have my project right here. Actually, I also have it running right here as a cloud runner. I don't want to do that actually, but here you can actually see the flow. Here you can see the name. The names need to be nice and need to be clear what the purpose is right here. I'm going to stop this job right now because I don't want to pay for this job to run. My cloud expenses are sometimes too high anyway, so I'm going to cancel this. You can also drain it. That means that it will finish handling the existing messages. This is not good if you have an error in your pipeline. Then your pipeline will actually never finish because it will continue retrying. If you cancel, then it just stops it, and you can actually lose messages if you do that. That's a downside with that, but this is a test environment, so I don't care. Let us go to the Firestore database right here. And here we have the direct run. We already have one document in there. So let us go to I had some test code. I showed you in the other video. So I'll go right here to, here we have some messages for the direct. Yeah. So I have these payloads right here that I've prepared. So I have, this is JSON. And again, we can create a third one. Let us just create a third one. And when you are it should actually have reordered it. So let me just look at my save actions. Save actions, actions on save, reformat, run code, clean up. It should actually re-up. That's okay. I would expect this one to be placed in the bottom, but that's okay. Spaceship types. What should be saucer? Destination, And let us start with the moon. Pilot mic, yes. Of course. And then fuel left. We have just refueled it, so it's 99.9%. And then we go back to my... This test right here it will place this payload on the on the topic. So you can see this is if you're used to the Pubsub with Google, the message system, then you can see that this is just plain old Pubsub code. So we have a publisher where we publish a message on right here. I have an array that's if I wanted to place more than one message at a time, then I could place that in an array. But right now there's only one, so this did not have to be in a for loop, but that's how it is. Let us run the code and then see what happens. We can go and look at our runner services right here, and let us look at the code. We already got the message. That's incredible. Saucer and mic, of course, 99%. So we can see that the data is actually real data, and it's not just a PowerPoint that you're watching, right? And let us go look at the result if it's actually in the data flow. That's not it. If it's in the Firestore database, I have too many browsers open at the same time. Yeah. So here we have here is the other document. Direct run. Sorry, direct run. Here it is. Here it is. Yeah, mic, of course, and we have saucer, 99.9%, and we have the moon as a destination. I am so proud of myself. It actually went. It's quite complex, so there's a lot of things that can actually go wrong. Yeah. Just for fun, if you you have to check your billing once in a while. So let me just go to billing. And billing is actually it is actually not that easy, I think, to see what it is that I'm paying for. Billing, cloud billing. This is support. I don't want to see that. I just want to see my billing over here. Why couldn't I choose that? Okay, but that doesn't matter. I had it pinned over there. Billing. There's something called cost table. You see, I'm up at $9 already, even though I tried to stop everything I had. So here I can see my cost table. You want to click that one and you want to sort it per. You want to see per project that you have. Sometimes I have like a lot of projects running, but I've kind of gotten used to only have one demo project running at a time because, or else, or else of course I would be charged too much here. So here I could see that Cloud Run is quite expensive. So when you're doing something with Cloud Run, make sure that you actually need it up at all times. Especially, I actually configured it so my Cloud Run was up at all times. But yeah, just be careful. Cloud Run is expensive. Everything where you need a CPU, it's actually expensive. Memory is also expensive. So storage is usually very, very cheap. That's actually it. This is actually what I wanted to show you. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great evening, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.